Hi, I'm Sarah, and I destroyed my family when I found out what my mom had been hiding from my dad. My parents have always been a little boring. Dad works hard, but doesn't make much money. My mom works as a substitute teacher. A few months ago, I noticed that my mother had changed. She put makeup on more often, lightened her hair color, and got a facelift. She also bought a couple of new dresses. I thought she was doing it for my dad, but she started spending fewer evenings with us and instead would go to her room with a laptop. Then she found a job at a school in the next town over. She started coming home very late, and one time, she didn't even come home at all. I talked to my dad about it, but he simply replied that my mother had stayed overnight with a friend, so she wouldn't have to travel so late at night. Dad didn't notice what a bitch Mom was becoming. When my mom bought herself another new bag from Yves Saint Laurent, I was in shock. So I decided to follow her and figure out what was going on. I had to spend money on a taxi. When my mother left for work, I told the driver to follow her. She only drove a few blocks, parked her car, and got into a brand new Mercedes. Some strange man was driving. I called my mom. She replied in her usual voice that she was in the middle of teaching a lesson and couldn't talk. I could barely restrain myself from ripping her a new one right then and there. Oh, that's quite a lesson you're teaching there in a Mercedes. I don't remember how I got home. I couldn't believe what I had seen that day. While Dad was making dinner, I took her laptop. Weird that she didn't have a password to log in. I looked at what she had opened lately, and my gaze froze. On a site for mistresses. Using the search history, I immediately found my mother's profile. Take the laptop and smash it against the wall. Scream at the top of my lungs so that Dad would come running and I would tell him everything. That's what I wanted to do. But I could hardly hold back my tears as I looked at her photos on the site. I had never seen her like that. They were vulgar and revealing photos. In her interests, it said dating, sponsorship. It all became very clear to me. Dad set the table and said that we would be having dinner without Mom because she was running late. Since she's having dinner and not only having dinner with someone else, I thought to myself, I really wanted to tell him. But first, I wanted to talk to her. Mom came back while we were watching TV. She immediately went to take a shower because she was tired. I hated to think of what exactly had made her so tired. I approached her in the kitchen. Her robe slipped slightly off her shoulder, and I noticed a hickey on her neck. Are you kidding me? What was she, 15? But now it was obvious why she had wrapped herself up in it. I told her that I knew everything. She smiled and asked what I was talking about. She was about to walk out, but then I grabbed her by the arm and loudly called her by her profession. She turned pale. She hissed, "Keep your voice down." I laid out everything that I had learned about her. I thought she was about to burst into tears and beg me to forgive her, but her pupils dilated and she squeezed my arm until it hurt. She told me that I didn't know what it's like to not have money for anything, that I had everything and would get even more, college, a car, and expensive stuff, because she would be providing for me, and not my beloved daddy. And how dare I judge her, and that if I even thought about telling my dad, she would shut me up. After that, she calmly sat down to drink her weight loss tea. I was in shock. I hope it gives you diarrhea. After our conversation, my mother started leaving home even more. She would come back with new hickeys hidden under designer scarves, a disheveled appearance, and smeared lipstick. She could tell that I didn't dare tell Dad the truth, and it only emboldened her. One day, she handed me her expensive purse and told me that it was from the previous collection and that she only had things that were new. She was mocking me. I decided that I had to put that bitch in her place. I was terribly nervous while waiting for my dad to come home from work, and when he did come home, I told him that I had something important to tell him, and he should pour himself a whiskey. He looked frightened, and I told him that it was about Mom. I put my mother's laptop in front of him, showing her profile on that website. He went silent for a long time and clicked through the photos. Then I couldn't stand it any longer and told him about how I had followed her and confronted her about it, and that she had forbidden me from telling him. Dad downed another drink and said, "Let's take this call girl to a restaurant. Do you remember that really expensive one that she always wanted to go to? Message her and tell her to block out her schedule for the whole evening." I created an account, uploaded a couple photos of some fake millionaire, and texted my mom. She replied that she would only be able to do it on Thursday the next week. Apparently, she had a busy schedule. We had to be patient and pretend everything was normal for another week. When she came to that restaurant, my father and I joined her after a few minutes. She wasn't expecting it at all. She realized that I had told him everything and that she was busted. Dad didn't say anything and just stared at her. She stared back insolently and arrogantly, and then suddenly burst into tears. Then my father apologized for not making a lot of money and told her to order whatever she wanted, because it was the last time he would do something for her. The next day, he was going to move out and file for divorce. Dad did as he had said. Mom asked me to stay with her, but I hated even looking at her. I knew that my dad needed my support now. I went with him. Yeah, I don't have a happy family anymore, but I also don't have a family with everyone lying to each other. Well, that was my story. Thank you for listening, and be sure to write in the comments what you would have done in my position. Has anything like that ever happened to you?